Hi, my name is Larry Pollock. I'm coming to you from Underground Performance Gym in Ventura, California. We're here today to talk about high-intensity training and the principles of it, where it came from, and how it evolved over time, and how I've used it myself and applied it, and how you can apply it to your own training yourself. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a subject that's been controversial since the 1980s, maybe even before that, and I have a lot of experience with it. It's the high-intensity training methodology, and I want to discuss the origins of high-intensity training, how it came about, and the principles behind it, and how it applies to training today versus high-volume training. So to give you some background, originally back in the 70s, when bodybuilding was relatively new, most of the top bodybuilders were doing what's called high volume training. They would do basically 10 sets of 10 reps or something along that line of thinking, with a certain amount of weight, whatever they could perform. It was generally like that. Some did even more volumes, some less, but it was multiple sets of multiple reps of training, usually 5 to 10 sets for an exercise. And that was made famous by Arnold Schwarzenegger, because that was his training principle when he came up, at least that's what he claimed, and a lot of top bodybuilders from the 70s. Then around late 70s, a guy named Arthur Jones, who was the inventor of Nautilus equipment, developed a high-intensity training principle. And the theory behind the principle is that the higher the intensity, the greater the adaptive response to the muscle. In other words, if a muscle is capable of lifting a certain amount of weight for a certain amount of reps, it will develop to the point that it needs to be big and strong enough to accomplish that feat. In order to increase the size of the muscle and the strength of the muscle, which, by the way, it kind of goes hand in hand, the intensity has to increase. So that can be done by increasing the amount of weight being lifted, the amount of resistance, things called time under tension, and we'll get into all that. So again, to give you some more background, so Arthur Jones originally came up with this Nautilus theory, and it was really made famous by a guy named Mike Mentzer, who was a world champion bodybuilder. He took second place in the 1979 Mr. Olympia. He actually won the heavyweight division in the 1979 Olympia and was beat by Frank Zane, who won the lighter division. At that time, there was two different divisions. Mike Mentzer, again, he was a top Olympic competitor. In 1980, he came in his all-time best shape. And at the last minute, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a promoter of the competition, jumped in the contest. And it was a very controversial decision where Schwarzenegger actually won the contest, and it was probably the biggest controversy in bodybuilding to this day. And Mentzer was, in many people's view, the favorite to win the show that year, and arguably should have won. But there was a huge rivalry between the Schwarzenegger camp and the Mike Mentzer camp because of the different ideologies of training. Mike Mentzer, he promoted the high-intensity training principles, which was taking a set to failure and beyond. And I'll explain in detail more what that is as we get on. So Mike Mentzer was very intellectual, and he wrote a lot of articles on the high-intensity training. And I was just getting into bodybuilding in around 1980, when I was 13 years old. And I would read his articles in the magazines. And originally I started training in a traditional bodybuilding gym, a little bit more high volume, because that's what I was taught. But I read a lot about Mike Mentzer's training, and it just made sense to me. So I did train pretty high intensity, but a little bit more volume up until I was 18 years old. And I was a pretty accomplished bodybuilder by that time. By the time I was 18, I had won the Junior USA. in the light heavyweight and overall division. And the following year, when I was 19, actually, I'm sorry, it was later at 18, but when I was 19, I was training for the Team America again, and I was introduced by Mike Mentzer in person. We hit it off right away, and long story short, he invited me to move in with him and become his roommate and a training partner. So I was able to train with Mike personally for that whole year while I trained for the Team USA. And he taught me everything. I literally trained with him that year. And when I first met Mike, he hadn't been training for, I don't know, some time. And I was kind of shocked when I first saw him because he was a little overweight, a slight pot belly, and his arms were probably about 13 inches. And he was not the famous Mike Mentzer that I had seen in the magazines. But in training with him, within 3 months, he transformed into massive bodybuilder. I believe he probably had 19.5-inch arms or something like that. And I think he was about 5'7", and the gut went away, of course. But a lot of people have said that Mike really didn't train the way he promoted it, that we really didn't train that high intensity training. And I'm going to tell you for sure that, yeah, that is what we really did. And I'll explain to you exactly how we trained and what we did. So basically, the theory behind high intensity training is you take the weight that you're training to absolute failure, which means you can no longer do another complete rep. When you can no longer do another complete rep, you extend the set out. The way we originally did it was we did something called forced reps, which is basically you take the set to failure, and when you can no longer do another full rep, the training partner helps you by applying a little bit of pressure to do an additional rep. And you do as many forced reps as you can till you can no longer do any more forced reps. And then we did what's called negative, which is the concentric portion of the rep. You're stronger on the lowering concentric portion than the eccentric portion. So, for example, if I take a bicep curl, I might be at complete failure doing the concentric portion, but I still have strength to do more on the negative. And more muscle damage, more fiber damage is done during the eccentric part when you're extending out. So theoretically, you're getting more growth stimulation from that. So after we finish with the full forced reps, then we would do the negative reps. And we do anywhere from 2 to 3 negatives. And what you do is the training partner helps you to the top, you hold it, and then you lower it slowly under control as slowly as you can until it's fully extended, and then he brings it back up until finally the muscle's at absolute complete failure. You can't do another rep no matter what, no matter how. Okay, this is the original way we did train. Now, with this type of training, because it's so intense and you're doing so much damage to the muscles, and also you're overstimulating the central nervous system, you can only do a certain amount of this type of training. In other words, if you do a real set of high intensity training to failure and beyond, you're not going to be able to do 10 sets of that. Because after you do one set of that total to failure, the muscle is pretty much fried. It doesn't have anything left. The other thing is your central nervous system it gets overloaded. So it can only take a certain amount of stimulus, and you can only recover from a certain amount of stimulus, not only in a particular workout, but in a particular day or week. So because of this, because of the intensity, the higher the intensity, the briefer the training session has to be. In other words, if you're doing high intensity training, taking sets to failure and beyond, you're not going to be doing 20 sets for a body part. It's just physically impossible. And anybody can argue this, and I'll prove them wrong. That you just can't. It cannot be done. Not if you're truly going to failure and beyond. Okay. So we did train this way, and during that year of training, I went from probably about, I competed as a light heavyweight in the Team America and the Team USA at 18 years old, and around 190 pounds. And then I went to the Team America at age 19 at 205 pounds. So in that year, I gained about 15 pounds of muscle because I was in contest condition at 205 pounds. I went from the light heavyweight to the heavyweight division. Would I have gained that anyways? I don't think so. So that is what we really did. And of course, I could get more into the nutrition and all of that. We actually trained 4 times per week, which is what I still do to this day, and did a split training principle where we did certain body parts on certain days. Basically, it was like a push-pull system. We do chest, shoulders, and triceps on one day, back and biceps another day, legs on another day. I think we did shoulders on a separate day. And that basically, I do something similar to that to this day, and I've been doing it for about 40 years. I've trained with thousands of people and pro bodybuilders and trained athletes, and I can tell you this training isn't for everybody because not everybody is able to train with this type of intensity for a consistent period of time. However, if you are able to do it, it is proven the most effective way to train for muscle gains. And I want to explain a little bit about how my training has evolved over the years. Doing this myself. Again, originally we did with forced reps and negative reps. And I did that because it works. But in order to do that properly, you have to have a training partner with you that is really experienced and really understands exactly how much pressure to apply in the forced reps and negative reps, so that they're not putting too much pressure, so they're not taking the resistance off the muscle, and they're not obviously doing too much on the negative, so you injure yourself. If you're fortunate to have a person with you like this all the time, that's great. If you're not, there's other ways to do it. And this is something, a system that I've developed, well, I don't develop, but I've adopted, called drop sets. So the way a drop set works is you take a weight that you can do for a certain amount of reps to failure. And once you get to failure, you reduce some of the resistance. And then as you reduce the resistance, you're able to do more reps. Okay, as you do more reps, you reduce the resistance again, and you do more reps. So you're basically taking the set to failure 3 times in different rep ranges. And this applies to what we call fast twitch muscle fiber training. This is a principle that I don't think a lot of people understand, but we have what's called fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers. Fast twitch are your explosive muscle fibers, and your slow twitch are your endurance fibers. And you have both, and your body will adapt to the type of stimulus that it gets, whether it be high intensity training, or if you're a marathon runner, it'll adapt to that, or if you're doing high volume, it'll adapt to that by changing the fibers into different types. Now, within the fast twitch fibers are the ones capable of generating the most strength and also capable of getting bigger as compared to slow twitch. We have 3 different muscle fiber types. We have type fast twitch 1, fast twitch 2, and fast twitch 3. Fast twitch 1 works in a 1 to 3 rep range. What that means is you take a weight that you can go to failure within 3 reps, and those fibers are doing the majority of the work because those are the deep fibers that have the contractile ability to generate force in a 1 to 3 rep range. Then you have fast twitch 2 fibers, which work in a 3 to 6 rep range. And fast twitch 3 fibers work in a 6 to 10 rep range. Once we get past 10 reps, we're working basically in our slow twitch fibers, which are not capable of generating as much strength or size as the fast twitch fibers. And when you're training a muscle, it's like shifting gears in a car. Once you get to the 3 reps to failure, okay, then those fast twitch muscle fibers are exhausted. But as you extend the set, if you do 3 more reps and get to 6 reps, then your fast twitch 2 fibers kick in. And if you get to 10 reps, your fast twitch 3 fibers kick in. So what you want to be able to do is work all 3 fiber types in the fast twitch, which means you need to work in all 3 rep ranges. Now there's a way to do that. There's several ways to do it. One, you could do some sets that are very low volume. It would be low volume, but low reps, working with a weight that's very heavy that you can only do three reps. Or you can take another set and then do more volume, taking a weight that you can do, say 6 reps. And then you could do another set that take a weight that you could do 10 reps. In doing that, you would have to do 3 sets to basically exhaust all 3 of those fiber types, which would take a certain amount of time. Now, another way to do it is what we call a drop set. So a drop set is where I'm going to take a weight and I'm going to get to failure somewhere between 3 and 5 reps. I'm going to pull weight off, do another 3 to 5 reps, pull more weight off, and keep in mind I'm going to failure or close to failure each time. And then I'm going to finish the set at around 10 to 12 reps. And I'm going to play a little clip of for you of me actually doing this so you can see what it looks like. So this is what's called a Rogers squat. It's a squat machine, and the reason I'm using a squat machine instead of a barbell is because I'm using about 700 pounds to begin this set. And with the amount of weight I'm using and them pulling weight off during the set, it would be very dangerous to do that with a regular barbell. But you'll see I do as many reps as I can to complete failure. And then they strip some weight off. I keep going with as many reps as I can. And they strip some more weight off. And I keep going till I can no longer do any more reps, even with a lighter weight. So I've gone to 3 different times in all 3 rep ranges. And you can see the intensity of this set. And there's something called time under tension. The longer the muscle is under tension, the more you're doing damage to the fibers. Now you can see that was a very intense set, and there's no way I would be able to repeat that again after doing that, because I'm completely exhausted after that set. I literally, after that set, I have to sit down, and it takes me a good 10 minutes to recover from that set before I can do another set of another exercise. And the next exercise we'll look at is leg press, where we're going to do the same principle, and we'll go through the same thing, and I'll show you that one right now. So I'm starting with a little over 1,000 pounds, and I go 5 reps to complete failure. Well, I cannot do a single other rep. They pull off 2 45s on each side, which is 180 pounds. I was able to get another 3 reps. And then they pull off another 180 pounds, and I was able to get another 3 reps till I couldn't do a single rep more. And I was completely done after that. So you can see in this workout, not counting warm-up sets, we obviously didn't start with this weight. I did warm-up sets working up to this. But those are my 2 major working sets. In those 2 sets, I've done so much damage to the muscle that there's no way I'm going to be doing 10 sets of all. Not at that rate, not at that intensity. It's just physically impossible. And I've also stimulated the muscle maximally. So there's no reason for me to do any more sets. The muscle has completely been working in all 3 rep ranges as far as it can go. And after that, there's literally no reason anyway to do anything. I can tell you after these workouts, my legs are so sore. I can barely walk that day, and even the next day. So I always train my legs on Saturday because Sunday I can still barely walk. That's how bad the damage is from doing just this low volume. And most most of the damage is done during of course I did some warm-up sets before this to work up to the weight. But most of the damage was done during these very heavy sets. And my entire workout consisted of a couple sets of leg extensions to warm up my quads and seated ham curls to warm up the hamstrings. And then I went right into the heavy Rogers squats, right into the heavy leg press, and then I finished with some abductors, and I'm done. Even with the low volume, that workout takes me about 2 hours to get through it, not counting just warming up. Warming up by meaning stretching. I do probably 30 minutes of stretching and calisthenics and things like this just to get ready for the workout, because if I don't do that, I'll probably tear something and injure myself. Okay? So why does it take 2 hours if I'm only doing so much? I'm only doing a very low volume, low sets. Because again, after each of these sets are so intense, I literally have to sit down for 10 minutes just to recover enough to move on to the next exercise. And now keep in mind, I did do some warm-up sets prior to that heavy set. I did a very light set of 10 reps with just, 90 pounds. And then I went to another set with 315 pounds and another set with 500 pounds. Not pushing it, just to build up in weight, because obviously if I jumped right under 700 pounds without warming up, I'd probably break something. For sure I would break something, tear something. So you need to work up to that. But I'm not using maximum effort during this. I'm not even trying to go close to failure. I'm just priming my nervous system and priming the muscles to get ready for that heavy set. And that's where I'm going to put all my effort into that heavy set at the end. So that's basically how that works. And again, there's been a lot of in the controversy lately, but scientifically proven it's effective. And if you look at the majority of the top bodybuilders from the 90s and even beyond, and even powerlifters, some of them who have claimed to do high volume, if you actually watch training videos, they're lifting very heavy weight and going to failure. Jay Cutler even admitted recently in a video that at his prime, when he was trying to beat Ronnie Coleman and trying to put up as much size as possible, he went very heavy and worked to failure. And he's known as a high volume guy. So it's not the only way to do it. Now, there's a lot of things to consider in this. Recuperation is huge, and it's going to vary depending on your genetics and, of course, how much sleep you get and proper nutrition and all of that. So the higher the intensity of the training, the longer it's going to take to recover between workouts. And, of course, if you're getting proper sleep, enough sleep, and for me, that's 8 hours a night of actually good, solid sleep, and you're getting enough nutrition between workouts. Even with that, I'm able to work each body part one time per week and get maximum results out of it. And I've tried actually training body parts more than once a week, and what I've found with myself is I'm always strong on the first workout of the week, and on the second workout of the week, I'm not nearly as strong because the muscles are not recovered. It takes me a full week to recover from that training session so I can train that muscle at that intensity again. Now, there are people who train more volume and more often. They may train a muscle twice a week or some even 3 times a week. And how is it that they're able to do this and recover? Well, they're not generating the amount of intensity and doing the amount of muscle damage that I am able to create, or that could be created if they went all to complete failure and beyond. Why? I can tell you just personally from training people and training with people, even pro bodybuilders, not everybody has the mental fortitude to train this hard. And I can tell you, I've had people come to me and tell me they're high intensity trainers and they want to come train with us, and they want to go through the workout. And I have not had a single person show up and been able to complete the full workout without quitting either halfway through or throwing up. I have yet to see anybody come on the first time and do a leg workout with me and not either quit halfway through the workout or not puke during the workout, and the rest of the workout is pretty much crap because they're just wiped out. So it does take a lot of experience and I would say you have to be a little bit nuts to train like this, because again, to train high intensity. Now, it's possible someone can train high intensity at one time and get through a workout, but to do this week in and week out for year in and year out, and I've been training this way pretty much since I was a teenager. So we're talking 40 years of training here, with no breaks or very little breaks at all. And I've developed the ability that I can generate this type of intensity and recover from it, and I can do it. But I haven't seen too many other people that can do it. Even pro bodybuilders that I've trained with, most of them, they can't generate the same type of intensity. And I'm not saying there are certain people, of course. There was a famous bodybuilder who was a multiple Mr. Olympia, Dorian Yates, who also followed the Mike Mentzer principles, or I should say Arthur Jones principles that became Mike Mentzer principles of high intensity training. And he obviously was very successful. It became one of the top Olympia competitors in the 1990s, and obviously proved that the principles worked because he was able to put on a tremendous amount of muscle size doing this. Now, there's an argument, well, what about this other guy, like a guy named Paul Dillette, who was a mass monster, who didn't train high intensity. As a matter of fact, the guy did dumbbell curls with like 20-pound dumbbells, and he had 22 or 23-inch arms, and he was just massive. So how is this that this guy can get this big and train with such light weight? Well, now we come to the thing what we call genetics. And genetics plays a huge role in your development no matter how you train. There's a famous bodybuilder who was never turned pro named Victor Richards. I grew up as a teenager training around and with Victor Richards, not really with him, but at the same gym. And I watched Victor train. Victor would do a set of bench press, for example, not heavyweight, not really high intensity. And then he'd walk around the gym and talk for 10 minutes. Then do a set of curls, walk around the gym and talk for 10 minutes. Then do a set of squats, walk around and talk for 10 minutes, and then leave. And he was the biggest guy in the gym in the 90s, and probably one of the biggest guys I've ever seen in my life, muscle size, anywhere. And the guy barely even worked out. I mean, I was in the gym busting my butt the whole time we were there. That guy was barely training. So why was he so big? How was he able to generate so much muscle with doing hardly any training and hardly any intensity? Well, it's just genetics. Some people just are what we call hyper responders. They're hyper responders to any kind of training stimulus. When Victor was a teenager, he was already massive before he even lifted a weight. And then as soon as he started lifting any kind of weight, he just became more massive. It's like one of these Belgian blue bulls that are missing the myostatic gene. I think he might be missing a myostatic gene. They just grow no matter what they do. I have a dog like that. I have a bulldog who's 130 pounds who's lazy and sleeps most of the day. But he's solid muscle and he's still 130 pounds. So some people are like that too. And some people have poor genetic responders. In other words, no matter how hard they train, no matter what type of intensity they do, they're never going to reach the level of a pro-level bodybuilder. They just don't, their genetics they're not cut out for that. They're not made to do that. So while it's not going to work, it's not guaranteed that if you do high intensity training versus high volume training, you're going to become a pro bodybuilder or even get to that level for probably most of the population. That being said, if you do a high intensity training program, you're more likely to get better results than doing high volume if, and there's the big if you're able to actually do the training. And that's where most people fall short. I have found, training people personally, that most people I cannot push to this level consistently because either they don't have the mental fortitude to do it, they don't have the recuperative ability, and the few people that I have gotten to do it, they'll stick with me for maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. Longest has been maybe 3 or 4 months, and then they quit because it's just too hard. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to do this? Now, obviously everybody's going to be able to generate the same type of intensity as a Mike Mentzer or a Yates or even myself. However, if you do follow the principles of high intensity training versus high volume, I can pretty much guarantee you will get better results than if you just do a very high volume training. You'll also spend less time in the gym and more time recovering. And again, as I stated before, recuperation is a huge factor. After I train legs, like I said, I always train on Saturday, so Sunday's an off day. I use legs as an example because it's the hardest thing to train. Now, that being said, when I take a regular training client, someone who's never lifted weights in their life before, and I'm going to start them on a weight training program, the first thing I need to assess is their physical capability, their ability to, their strength, their endurance, and their ability to withstand pain in a workout. And the only way I can do this is to take them through a workout and see how strong they are and try to gauge their mental toughness. And based on that, we start slowly, and over time, we can increase the resistance. It's a theory called progressive resistance training. I had a lady that I just started training not too long ago. She had all kinds of medical conditions and severely overweight, bad back, you name it. And she could not get out of a chair with her own body weight. So we started, literally getting off of a stool, squatting her body weight. And then slowly but surely, we worked up to smaller amounts of weight. And now she's doing what we call a belt squat, which is a belt around your waist so you're not compressing your spine because she has a bad back. And she's gone from, in just a short period of time, from not being able to get out of a chair to squatting 70 pounds for sets of 10 reps, and even squatting 90 pounds for sets of 5 and 6 reps. So, but her, again, based on where her starting point, I don't have her, she's lifting weights at her ability. We're not doing negatives, we're not doing forced reps, we're not doing strip sets. She's not physically capable of doing it. She's not mentally capable of doing it. That's something that comes with time and experience and training. And if you take someone, they're brand new, and you try to get them to do this, you're just throwing them into the deep end of the pool and they're going to drown. They're not going to make it. So if you adopt this type of training, don't think you're going to walk in the gym first day and be doing forced reps, negatives, and drop sets and recovering from that and being able to do it. You have to develop this over a period of time. And for most people, it's going to be months, if not years, to be able to develop this capacity. But once you do, your ultimate results are going to get better. Now, we run into something what we call a plateau. So plateau is where the muscle is no longer getting bigger and stronger. We've stalled out. Why does a muscle plateau? Well, there's a couple different reasons. Number one, the stimulus is not any greater than it was before. So if I take a weight that I can do 10 repetitions with, say, 100 pounds, and I continue to do 10 repetitions with 100 pounds, even if I do it for multiple sets, I'm not going to increase the size and strength of the muscle because there's no reason for it to get bigger and stronger because I'm just working with that same weight. So the only way I'm going to give it a reason to get bigger and stronger is to increase the intensity, which means increasing the amount of resistance, the amount of stimulus. So I can go up in weight, I can extend the set, I can do force reps and negatives, but somehow I need to make the set harder than it was before in order to keep going. And as you progress farther along in training, as you get more advanced, it becomes harder and harder to get the muscle to keep growing because, you reach a point where your genetics are almost maxed out and the muscle just doesn't want to, your body doesn't want to carry any more muscle. So you literally have to force it to put on more muscle if you want it to go any farther. And without forcing it, it's just not going to. It's not going to do it just because. Now, other things that can hold you back from growing is obviously not getting proper rest and proper nutrition, which I see a lot. People can train as hard as they want in the gym, but if you don't recover from the training and you're not feeding it the proper nutrients for it to grow, then obviously it's like trying to drive your car without gasoline. It's not going to work. So that's a whole other subject for a whole other video about proper nutrition and training. But today I really just wanted to cover high intensity training and what it is. And again, if you look at the training videos of most of the top bodybuilders of the world, including a guy named Hadi Choopan, who is the current Mr. Olympia, you'll see he's lifting very heavy weights. He's doing drop sets. And it's not a coincidence that he's Mr. Olympia and the #1 bodybuilder in the world right now. It's not an accident. And if you look at almost all the top Olympia champions, you'll see pretty much the same thing. Now, of course, now you say, well, how about this other guy in the gym? He's a huge guy and he's not lifting heavy weights. And again, we go back to the genetic thing of Victor Richards. Yeah, they have amazing genetics, but there's also something that can take place. I've seen this a lot. A person may train hard and lift very heavy weights for several years and put on a certain amount of muscle size. And once you put on that muscle size, you don't have to train quite as hard to maintain it. The body just becomes used to carrying it. I'm not saying you don't have to train hard, but you don't have to train as hard to just maintain. Now, I found for myself that that doesn't work very well. I have to keep pushing it because I don't have those crazy genetics where I can just not work out and maintain my muscle mass. I just have to keep working out or I lose it. But some people can maintain their muscle mass. So you'll see some bodybuilders in the beginning of their career where they trained very hard, very heavy. They put on all their size, and now they're not training quite as hard and not quite as heavy, and they're still able to maintain it using more moderate training methods, which is fine if that's what they want to do. But they're also not growing anymore. They already put on that size in the beginning, so they're just maintaining the same. And if you get to a level where you're comfortable and you're happy with the size, which I don't know too many people, we always say, we start out with a certain goal, and then of course when we get there, you want more. That's the way it usually goes, for most people anyways. But if you did want to just maintain, maybe not 100%, but say 90%, you could probably lower the intensity, do a little bit more volume, and probably maintain most of your muscle mass, as long as, again, you're eating and recovering properly. This is Larry Pollock, again, wrapping up for Underground Performance Gym. We're the hardcore training center in Ventura, California. We have all the top-of-the-line equipment, everything from Body Masters, Cybex, Nautilus, Hammer Strength. We have it all. And the atmosphere is unmatched. You can go on our website, undergroundperformancegym.com, and fill out a 7-day free trial. Come in and try out the gym, see how you like it. And we host several powerlifting meets every year. Also, you can go on our website for merchandise. And if you have any other questions, definitely contact me and leave a message in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video so we can provide more content, keep updating you with more new information.